Alright guys, in the last video we saw that this 202 knob right here, which is the first one, right here wasn't working. So it's not putting out a PC5, or it shouldn't be unless these are bad. So we'll have to check that out. But the first thing is got to check this out. Also we noticed that, let's see, this is 2, 3, 4, 5, that 5 wasn't always working either. Occasionally it would stop, it would start skipping, like right there. It shouldn't skip, it should just jump every single time like these ones do. So the first part in fixing that is, obviously the displays are working, and all these do is send information to the CPU board. And have it decoded, and then the board sends the information right back to the display board. So because these are not directly tied to the displays, these are tied to the CPU. CPU then determines what the display is supposed to be. So obviously the first thing you need to do is turn it off, and we're going to access the cover. And the cover has one in the run here, one in the back, and 2 on the side each. So, or I'm sorry, 3 on the side. So there's a total of 8 screws. So I'm going to go ahead and remove those screws. And we'll stick it in. I got a little tray over here. We'll get the back one out. I must have put it someplace else. Oh, that's right. I took them all out just to make it easier for the video. Now you can just lift it up. Oh, second most important step is unplug the darn thing. You can get into it, but if you're going to maintenance it, you might want to unplug it. And then I usually turn it on to bleed any excess off. Then you can go ahead and remove the cover. So let's have a quick look inside. This, I believe, is the processor board. This is your voltage board. It's got a cover on it right now. I can show some pictures of that. This is your input knob and display board, or not display board, this is your input control board down here on the bottom. And then this back one right here, these are not attached to this. This is just your display board right here. So we're going to get these out. First thing you have to do is remove this board, and in order to move that, there's I believe 4 or 5 screws. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 screws, and you have to remove the ribbon. So the ribbon, we'll go ahead and wiggle that and get it off of there. And we can just set it right there. Then we can get at these screws. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Let's go ahead and get this board out of here. They have these little Teflon washers on them, or plastic washers too. So you got to be careful of those, not to drop them down inside, because you'll want them again later. You have a little plastic washer. It looks like a nylon washer, and a lock washer there. So you got one there, one there, one there underneath the tab here, and then one on the end. Let me get those out for you, and then I'll pull the board. There's 1, 2. All right, last screw coming out. There we go. Put the last one over here with numbers. The rest of them. All I got to do is just grab this board, and it just pops right out. There we go. And you have to remove this board in order to get this control board out here, the input. They call it local control and switching. This is your A6 board. To get that one out, you have to pull this off, which is nothing more than a dip ribbon. So you have to be real careful with those, because the little tabs are not very robust and they do break off easy. So I'm going to use 2 hands to get that one off and be real gentle with it. You could also use a right angle scribe and just pry each side up and just kind of walk it up like this and get it off, and that would probably be preferred. So let me get that off real quick. If you don't have a scribe, you can just kind of walk it back and forth and be real gentle with it and get it up like that. And then just go ahead and tuck it up under here so it's not springing into the way. Now, to get this board out, you also have to remove the power switch. It's a lot easier. You might be able to snake it out, but I find it easier just to remove the power switch. So let me show you how to do that. The power switch is real easy. All you got to do is get a screwdriver in here possibly and loosen this up. There you go. Push it out like this and then flop it off to the side. And take your nut and put it back on there so you don't lose your washer, or not your washer, but your other little lock nut. Try not to change the position of this because it will determine how deep the switch goes into the chassis. So when I screw it on, I just hold onto this nut and screw it on with my other hand. All right, now that you got that off, before you pull these screws off of here, you have to remove all the knobs. So let's go after those next. All right, now only two of the knobs actually have a position that are important. One is S201, that's your polarity, and then your other one is your mode select. So I put those at the upper position right here so it's easy to remember where they go when I put them back on. The rest of them, they don't matter what position they're in. So to make it easy, I just move the set screw so it's vertical, straight up. They're easy to get through. You can put them on that way, and it just doesn't matter because all they do is send an encoder to these two buffers, which are selectable on and off by your phase 1, phase 2, or whatever they want to call it, and then they go out to the CPU board via this ribbon cable right here. So let's go ahead and get all these loosened up and get them off. They don't require very much to get them loose. That one probably could have used a little bit more. There you go. And then I just put them in a little cup so they don't get lost, or the cat doesn't knock them on the floor and run them under the stove or the fridge or something. So let me get the rest of these off for you. Now these ones you have to get from the bottom, so you can either do it like this and fiddle around with it, or you can just hold the unit up like this and get to it. I prefer to hold the unit up. So let me get the other one off. And that's pretty much how I do it right there. I just hold it up and get it off like that. There we go. Now you may think that because these have little nuts right here on them, I wish this darn thing would focus, that you have to go ahead and take these nuts off. Well, actually you'd be wrong. What you have to do is you have to turn the unit around and pull two nuts off the inside. So let me show you where that's at. Alright, now to make things easier, just flop this back here up under there, and then that's one of them right there, and the other one is right here. Now you have these screws right here, and we'll get to those later. Those ones actually mount to this little frame that's sitting right here. Let's see if I can't zoom in for you. There you go. There's a frame right here, and this frame is held on to the front panel by these two nuts, and it's just two of them. That's it. So let's get these nuts off of here. Now you can use a wrench or something, or you could do whatever you want to do, but they're not held on very tight, so I just use a sturdy pair of needle nose pliers to get to them. It's a little easier to get into that little pocket and then loosen them up. It's also a good time that to go ahead and clean the inside of your glass right here for your display. Sometimes it gets dirt and dust up in there, and it might get a little fuzzy on the outside or just look kind of funny behind it, little specks when the unit lights up. So it's a good time to do that right now too. So let's go ahead and get this off here. Hurt my hand the other day. Sorry about that. Alright, well let me get them both off here. This one's a little trickier to get to, but you can get to it. Kind of pull these off, and then you can get yourself some little forceps There we go. Forceps had a little bit of magnetism on it. That washer did not want to drop off. All right, now that you've got that, just slide this. Let me zoom out. Just slide this back. Tilt it and lift it straight up. Like that. There you go. All right, now let me go ahead and get this better situated. All right, for those who are curious, who want to use, say, a socket or wrench, these are 5/16 right here. And these right here are 1/2 inch. And I went ahead and I've marked these. This one doesn't work at all, and this one's intermittent. So we're going to take them apart and we're going to clean them. Then we're going to put them back in. But in order to take these apart, or take these off of here, I should say first, before we take them apart, you have to remove the circuit card from this frame. You can't get these out while the circuit card is on the frame. So that means you have to remove all these nuts right here first. So let's get to those. I usually just like to go ahead and loosen them up first. And then I just use my finger to spin them all off. And it works really well. So let me get all these off here for you. Alright, now just go ahead and spin all these off. Like that. Tip them over, drop them out, and then take all the hardware right here and stick it in your little tray. And set your tray aside. Alright, the next thing is to go ahead and remove all these screws right here, all 4 of them. Alright, once you get the screws loose, set them in your tray. Don't forget the washers. And then all you have to do is take this and just gently slide it back. There we go. Voila. Now the frame's done. You can set it aside. Now, these are just held on by little tiny tabs. So you can see that they're going to want to rock a little bit. Back and forth. Let me turn it sideways here. You're going to want to rock a little bit, depending on how tight they are when they go on. You don't want to be bending those too much because they will come off. So we need to get number 2 switch off and number 5 switch off. So let's flip it over. So that's going to be 2 and 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right here. And I have a solder sucker for it. If you don't have a solder sucker, you can go ahead and use some wick and an iron. Just be careful that you don't lift the pads. If you do, you'll have to repair them. I don't have a video on how to repair a specific pad on this board, but I have one on how to repair or set eyelets, and that's in another video. I believe it's my Amiga 500 RAM video or something, how to change the battery. So you'll have to dig around through that. It's an 8-part series. So, but it's not 8 parts on how to set the eyelet. It's just 8 parts on how to change the battery and change corroded copper plate on a board. So you can just flip around through the videos and find the one that's got the eyelet. I don't remember which one. If I remember, I'll stick it in a video inset here. So let me get my solder sucker here, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to remove these. It was number 2. So we got to set it on there until the solder melts. Once it melts, we go back and forth with it and then suck it off like that. Sometimes I'll go in little circles. And number 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right here. And the reason you go back and forth, Just to make sure solder melts and breaks free on the other side of the board. And you might have to do that a few times to get them to come loose. So, sorry about that. I had to turn around and put the solder sucker up. So let's see if we can't focus this on here. See if I can get it to focus. I'm just having a hard time with this camera today since I did the upload on it. Now what I usually do here is just kind of wiggle them back and forth a little bit to break any little mechanical bond that may be in there. And you have to do this very gently because these are plated through holes, and if you get too aggressive with them, it will literally tear it apart. So you don't want to do that. So let's see if I can't wiggle this out of here now. And you don't force it. A good way to tell if it's broke free is if you wiggle it and the tabs wiggle back and forth while you're doing it. And I'm sorry about the lighting here. I lost my tripods. I don't remember where they went or what happened to them, so I ordered them. So you can see it's kind of wiggling there. So let me get two hands and get this out of here. Alright, now that we got it broken free, and you can tell because you might see air or a black hole on both sides of the tab. If you have a black hole on both sides of the tab, it should break free once you break the mechanical bond. And it looks like I may have had a little extra solder in here when I put them back on the last time, and maybe I had one of them bridged and that's why it wasn't working at all. So let's see if we can't get this one out. I broke the mechanical bond on this one. And it looks like I got one of them that's still sticking, so I might have to hit it with the solder sucker again. Hold on. Alright, I got them out. They came right out. I had to suck this one again a little bit. And let's turn the board over and see what it looks like. And this is what the other side of the board looks like. Yeah, it looks like I did have a little extra solder down there. I don't know if it made a difference or not, but I'm going to go ahead and clean those up. And then I'm going to show you how to open these up and clean the insides. And then we'll go ahead and reinstall them, put them back in the unit, and see if it works. Well guys, that's it for this video. If you have any comments or any ideas, go ahead and drop them down below. If you have experience repairing this thing, let me know too. So until the next video, God bless y'all and keep none you out. Bye.